This is Deborah Atkinson, and you're listening to Flipping 50, where I address your top questions and struggles. I share what to eat, how to move, and to think to get the energy and vitality you want in this second and better half. My guess is you are either one, a regular listener, and I appreciate you so much for being so, and I would really appreciate you leaving a rating in iTunes if you haven't yet. And I'll put the link in the show notes to make it easy to go step by step through what you need to do. Or two, this title caught your eye and you suspect that you might actually have a leptin resistance challenge. So, leptin resistance, less referred to than insulin resistance, often exists or coexists along with insulin resistance in overweight and obese women, and it interferes with your ability to lose weight. So I've got a question that may seem unrelated, but in light of a new study, it's very much so related. Do you couch compensate? If you do your run, your walk, your Zumba, do you then subconsciously compensate the rest of the day with less activity? You may be at risk if you're in menopause for several reasons if that's you, and it's definitely sabotaging your results. A 2019 study shows the more women in menopause exercised, the less active they were in their daily lives. Say you decide to relax on the couch instead of doing the housework because you've had such a big workout. Maybe you're sore, or you enjoy a glass of wine or two on the deck instead of taking the stroll around the neighborhood, potentially because you're thinking, well, I worked out today, right? It all adds up to potentially more weight and more body fat. In fact, it negatively affects your hormone levels, namely leptin, which was tested in this study. Leptin is your satiety hormone, telling you push away from the table or leave food on your plate, which to a lot of us who were raised in that era 30, 35 or more years ago, the happy plate club, I call it, that's a big deal if you can push away from the table and leave food on your plate. But it tells you you're done, you're okay, you're good to go. And it often misfires in overweight or obese individuals. It's much more common among those who are over-exercising, yet under-moving. That phenomena is like the all too common overeating but undernourished, which describes much of Americans. And it's relative. You don't have to be a marathoner to be doing too much for you right now. So if you're new to exercise and you want results yesterday or yesterday's yesterday, that infamous statement by one of my favorite clients not long ago, there's going to be a strong tendency to overdo it. The moment the weather turns warm and people get into spring training mode thinking, shorts, sleeveless weather is right around the corner, we can easily tend to overdo it, no matter what gender we are. So this whole concept of overdoing it is not new news. Literature has long suggested that the amount of all-day, everyday activity, referred to as NEAT, non-exercise activity time, is more closely associated with overweight and obesity than is gym or home workout sessions. So even gym rats and regular exercisers, if they're more inactive the rest of the day, they're more potentially doing less good than a moderate exercisers who is on the go all day long. In other words, if subconsciously or even consciously you're thinking, I had a great workout, now I'm going to go home and lay on the couch the rest of the day, that's not necessarily who has the greatest energy expenditure at the end of the day or the end of the week, all which add up by the end of the year. Find the right dose of exercise to make you most inclined to be more active all day. It's all about getting better at life, not getting better at doing the gym, especially if you're feeling so deserving that you overcompensate with food and or over couch compensate. Your exercise mindset can put you at risk. So how do you avoid that workout couch trap? First of all, you might start tracking all of your steps. And if you haven't yet started a more regular, consistent exercise program, the time to do that is right now. If you've got a tracker, use it. If you don't have a tracker, you don't have a fancy Fitbit Surge, or you don't have something else that's tracking, grab a very affordable pedometer that you can wear. The accuracy may be in question, but you're monitoring with the same accuracy or inaccuracy every single day. Just track what's average for you right now. And as you begin to exercise, continue to wear that. Now, if you're walking for exercise, it's going to change things, but I would recommend take it off during exercise anyway. I don't want you to track that. I want you to continue to track your just activity of daily living, because that's what's in question here. So you're going to wear it when you're not, quote unquote, working out. You're going to take it off when you do work out, and compare how active are you on your workout days to your non-workout days, or before you actually begin and get serious about a program, and after you've gotten serious about that program. You've also got to think about your mindset when it comes to exercise. It's really important here. Is it punishment? Is it enjoyment? Is it rewarding? Are you trying to burn it off, tone it up, remove it, change it because it now isn't acceptable? Exercise plans matter too. Is it an appropriate duration, frequency, and intensity level for you? If you are just literally coming off the couch, you've been pretty sedentary, starting a 6-day-a-week boot camp is probably not a good idea. I think we can all agree, but we often don't use logic when we're making decisions about what we want to do or change. We use emotion. So think about, is your exercise plan based on your allostatic load? And what that means is it's the overall arching load of the sum of all of your stressors from all sources in life. I'm talking relationships, finances, the toxins you might be putting on your body, from makeup to lip gloss to lotion to hair colorants or shampoo. All of that matters. What's in your water, what's not in your water. That all adds up to stressors, as well as the things we're so much more easily able to think about as, oh, that's stress. Here's why you care about leptin. Leptin messages your brain how much fat you carry or should. It's the satiety hormone that tells your brain you're full when you've consumed enough, but it goes haywire. And in many obese adults, leptin resistance is common. If you have leptin resistance, you have plenty of fat, but your cravings are still high, and you burn fewer calories when you are active. Wow, double whammy, right? What contributes to leptin resistance? High stress levels. That's a perception, so you can answer that right now. You have all the facts you need. A lack of sleep. Maybe you're not getting to sleep, staying asleep, you're waking too early, or you're just not prioritizing sleep. You think, there's some badge of courage if you get by with fewer hours of sleep, and you're robbing yourself here. You have high insulin levels. So this is something, if you've got high insulin levels, maybe they're known, you have gone in and your blood sugars are high. Your doctor is saying, do something about this, or we're going to do that. Or maybe you're already having to do something for your high blood sugar. Too much exercise, or the wrong kind of exercise at the wrong time for you. And remember, again, it's relative. Too much exercise for you. So you're worn out, you're tired, you're not feeling better and more energetic. That's a sign. And lastly, simple carbohydrate and sugar consumption. So that doesn't mean to say that you're a dessert fiend, that every time there's a piece of candy in a bowl, you grab it, or you're having chocolates, after every meal. Doesn't mean that you do that or have to have dessert all the time. It could mean you have a lot of bread in your diet, a lot of pasta in your diet. You eat a lot of cereal. You're getting a lot of carbohydrates at every single meal. And they're more simple carbohydrates, which rapidly turn to sugar. So in all ways here, we're talking Sugar. Sugar is the culprit. It leads to the high insulin levels, and all of these things, high stress levels, lack of sleep, lead to cravings for sugary types of foods. So you've got a vicious cycle here. What are the solutions for leptin resistance? So the good news is it's possible to reverse leptin resistance as long as you are willing to make some changes in your life. So if you're struggling with weight loss and you are overweight significantly and or you're obese, in fact, I'm going to share a solution at the end of the podcast for our Fit You program designed specifically for women in this category, because losing 20 or more pounds is very different than how you would lose 5 pounds, regardless of, in both cases, if you're over 50. But even that changes from when you were 20, 30, or 40, or if you're male. So for leptin resistance, number one, avoid processed foods. So we're talking processed foods, packaged foods, and fast foods fall under this category. They cause inflammation and they increase your cravings. They're actually chemicals in fast foods, in that bag of chips or pretzels or whatever it might be that's your jam, that cause you to want more. No one can eat just one for a very good reason. Companies make it that way. Next up is avoid foods that you're intolerant to. They also drive inflammation up, and the way to know is to test, don't guess. I'll share resources. In fact, this podcast has a cheat sheet that you can download. So if you will visit the show notes at flipping50.com/leptin-resistance, you can get the cheat sheet and download it for free. I'm sharing that already with my Flipping 50 community. They get the notice right away, right to their inbox, that here's the cheat sheet you can download. So if you want that, you also need to come over to Flipping 50 and join our community, so you get the juicy things that only my email subscribers get. So on this list of foods, specifically, you know these already if you're here. I'm preaching to the choir, but dairy is a big one for most people. Gluten, wheat, eggs, soy. Sugar is definitely out, which includes alcohol and all of those foods that turn to sugar easily. And there are a few others that may bother you depending on what's happening for you. Lectins in legumes can sometimes be problematic. In certain beans, they can be problematic. So you do want to take a deeper look, potentially, but you've got to start somewhere. You want to eat soluble fiber. The higher fiber consumption prevents and reduces obesity. Definitely tied. It also supports better blood sugar levels. So your insulin is not going to spike, giving you a better opportunity to burn fat. It's going to keep you full and satisfied. And I'll talk more about that down the list. In terms of exercise, so you want to change what you're doing. For hormone balance, I advocate in almost every single program and almost every single private client that I work with, we want to do higher intensity exercise early in the day to work with your cortisol levels. However, if you have leptin resistance, we switch that. We actually want you to do it late in the day. For your hormone balance, that's optimal. For 99% of you listening, potentially that is not what you need to do unless you have leptin resistance or suspect you do. You boost your growth hormone by 60% with strength training. And we need that for supporting weight loss due to an increase of lean muscle mass and a decrease in body fat mass. So comparing strength training to steady state exercise, if you're exercising, you're going to class, you're doing steady state, or you're jumping on your treadmill or elliptical and just going and going for 45 or 60 minutes, you're killing yourself, right? You need to actually ditch that and go for strength training, number one. You will also double your energy expenditure from high intensity interval training versus continuous steady state that I just mentioned. So HIIT is good, but the third point in exercise is you've got to avoid injury and overtraining. And I'm going to be talking about that in an upcoming podcast, what the truth is and what we now know about high intensity interval training, because we've been doing it and watching it for about 10 years now. So we've got some good statistics on as the popularity of HIIT increased, so too did injury rates. And for women over 50 who are a little bit less resilient, super important. So you've got to avoid injury and overtraining by not doing high intensity interval training all the time, because your injury risk will increase as well. So there's an upper limit. There is what we call a sweet spot. Too little, too much, not good. We want that right in the middle. So to summarize the exercise again, strength training is your jam, high intensity interval training at the right amount, not too much. And moving the exercise or higher intensity things to later in the day can be really helpful. Sleeping is a big solution for leptin resistance. And you may be saying, hey, I'd love to cooperate on that one, but I can't. You can take steps. You are more in control. And the first thing you need to do is stop telling yourself that you can't sleep or that you've never slept well, because your cells, every single one of them, is listening. You've got to start sending the message that in the past, I may not have known what I could control that would improve my sleep. So I wasn't sleeping really well, but I'm really working on it now and focusing on it. That's a message you've got to send your body. Every decision you make from the moment you wake up and the time you choose to do it can positively or negatively influence your sleep. So if you're drinking a lot of wine, you're not helping yourself at all. If you are sleeping in, you're not helping yourself at all. If you are consuming a lot of caffeine in the morning and in the afternoon to get that little pickup you need because you haven't slept well, you're hurting yourself. If you're exercising at the wrong type or at the wrong time of day, you're not helping yourself. There are things that you can do, many of them. And then there's shifting the food that you eat to the right time of day to help yourself. More carbohydrates, you might be surprised to know, at the right time can actually help you sleep. If you can sleep, you can reduce cortisol and increase your weight loss. So circling back, more carbohydrates actually may help you lose weight of the right kind at the right time. Eat protein, more protein potentially than you're used to. Protein and fiber together kill cravings and support fat burning. Stop snacking. So this one leads right into or right from the past. Stop snacking. Those small meals every few hours all day. Never give your liver the break that it needs. You're not going to become a fat burning machine if you constantly give your body fuel. It never needs to dip into fat stores. Why would it ever do something hard when you give it something easy and readily available? And that's where that protein and fiber combination come back in. If you feel like I've got cravings, I'm hungry all day. Part of the reason may be micronutrient insufficiency. Usually cravings are true of that, or that status will lead you to cravings. And they're an indication that you're deficient or have insufficient micronutrients. And you may not be getting enough fat or fiber or protein at the meals prior to those cravings occurring. Now, leptin it's left the house, right? You're creating it, but your brain is not picking up on it, so it's not getting the full signal. That's a part of it. But all of these things will help you reduce cravings so that you can get through. And regular small bouts of exercise, even movement, walking for 10 minutes, can help stabilize blood sugar and help your brain kind of move away from thinking about that snack. And last but not least, well, almost last, lower your triglycerides. So you want to have them checked and know where they are. But reducing carbohydrate intake, is the best way to reduce your triglycerides. And a lot of us think when we start talking about cholesterol levels and numbers that we're always talking animal fat, and really that's not true. We've associated now that reducing carbohydrates is the sugar and the rapidly turning to sugar carbohydrates. So except for those resistant starches, those are important. We just need to get the sugar out. But now, last but not least, stop dieting. Focus on micronutrient density. Make every bite count. Too few, too low quality, or junk calories each starve your body or confuse it, which slows your metabolism. If you eat less, you message your body, burn less, and it will. So start cooking. Buy and eat real food. Meal prep in your own kitchen is inversely related to the risk of obesity, meaning the more people cook, shop, create their own food, or at least plan it, maybe they're getting a little support. I'll show you some ideas here. The less likely they are to be obese. So is correlated to reducing your risk of obesity, being slightly less social, not eating out, not traveling quite so much, being more active, that's a no-brainer, and working in an active job. So if you do have a desk job, you're not sunk. Don't buy into that thought process either. But if you can, get up frequently through the day, walk down the hall, walk to the water fountain, keep drinking water so you have to keep getting up and making trips to the restroom, walk at your lunch hour, do a little walking before work and right after work. All of those things add up and matter. Other ways to cheat the system so that you can cook for those with time constraints. Buy those already chopped blends that are ready to go. You can find them at Trader Joe's. You can find them at almost any supermarket now, where there are already pre-chopped onions, celery, carrots. They're soup starters. You can dump them into either your crock pot or to a big pot ready for soup. Buy a crock pot or an instant pot or both. Get high-powered blender and make sure that you know how to use it and get comfortable with it. You can create soups, smoothies, pesto, dips, dressings. It's probably even better and often doubles as a food processor. Create one pan or one pot recipes and a file that you love and do those ahead on the weekend. So not only are you saving time in your prep, but you're doing it ahead of time, and then freeze and refrigerate so you are ready for the week. Leptin resistance can create a vicious cycle, making weight loss seem impossible. But the good news is it's reversible. And don't rely on willpower. It's not a discipline problem, girl. It's literally chemical, and the right steps in the right sequence can support you. If you've got a question about leptin resistance or ask me anything, leave it below the show link at flipping50.com, leptin the hyphen between it, resistance. I love hearing from you. And if this episode was helpful, please leave a rating in iTunes and then share it with a friend and surround yourself with a community of women on the same journey. To get the most from this week's episode, check out today's show notes at flipping50.com. Again, that's /leptin-resistance, where you'll find the juicy download that I made for you and resources, in fact, the support that I could use from you with that rating in iTunes. What are you waiting for? Let's start flipping 50 together.